What is the Nikon D3300? It's odd to think how quickly camera technology can pass from the realm of the pro to the amateur, from cutting edge to passé. Once upon a time we were all astounded by the 24.5 MP resolution of the Nikon DEX, a camera designed for professional photographers who were willing to spend £4,200 on their gear. 4 years later, and some people might reasonably be disappointed that the entry-level £500 Nikon D3300 only carries the same 24.2 MP resolution as its direct predecessor, the D3200. How things change. Despite the identical resolutions of the Nikon D3300 and D3200, there is one very important difference that impacts image quality. For the D3300, Nikon has removed the optical anti-aliasing filter. This is a filter installed in digital cameras to reduce occurrences of optical aberrations such as moire patterning, unwanted artifacts appearing on images that feature repetitive detail patterns. While anti-aliasing filters reduce this effect, the cost is a loss in sharpness. Recently it has become a trendy move for camera manufacturers to remove the filters entirely in favor of optimal sharpness, relying on big megapixel counts to cope with any moire-causing patterns. The effect for a camera like the D3300 is that its high-resolution sensor is now able to capture every possible detail, putting it in the same league with more advanced, and more expensive, cameras. And with that, things get more interesting. Nikon D3300 Design. The D3300's controls reflect its position as an entry-level DSLR. The emphasis is on simplicity, with a minimum of dials and buttons. As we've seen before on many a Nikon camera, menu and playback buttons are to the left of the LCD screen and menu navigating controls are on the right. It's all as quick and intuitive as it has been on previous models, no complaints here. There are a few direct access buttons for settings but not very many. The top plate houses an exposure compensation control, situated next to the shutter release, and a button on the front can be customized to control a preferred function. It defaults to ISO sensitivity. There's also a button to control flash settings. All other image settings are accessed through the menus on the rear display. Given that this is an entry-level camera, there are a couple of little additions to help beginners along. A nice one is the question mark function on each of the settings, which can be toggled to provide a quick explanation of what the setting is and what it does. Simple and clever. In terms of dimensions, the body of the Nikon D3300 is different to the D3200, albeit in a technical, rather academic sense. It's just 1 mm thinner than its predecessor, 1 mm shallower, a whole 2 mm taller, and its weight is reduced by 25 grams. Where the real difference in size comes is in the aforementioned new kit lens, which has a collapsible design reminiscent of Nikon's one-system lenses. This hasn't reduced the weight by any noticeable degree, but it has reduced the size. Nikon claims the new lens is 30% smaller and 25% lighter than its predecessor. Bringing the overall kit of the D3300 down in size is a very smart move, and may sway those who are thinking about plumping for a compact or compact system camera. Nikon D3300 Performance. Most of the D3000 series has used Nikon's Multicam 1011-point autofocus system, and the D3300 sees no reason to rock that boat. You could argue that 11 f-point is a little stingy these days, and you'd be right, but in truth we had few complaints about the D3300's f. It worked very well in bright light, and while its speed wasn't blinding, it was fast enough for us. In low light, however, it did start to struggle a little. The focal points generally fell on the part of the scene we wanted them to. It was only when we were shooting landscapes and wanted focal points on the edge of the frame that we felt we had to take over and manually focus. This, unfortunately, was a little disappointing. The new kit lens isn't much for manual focusing, the ring is small and fiddly to use. If you're a photographer who prefers to manually focus, you'd be better off with a different lens. Otherwise, Though, the kit lens performs really well. Its center sharpness is excellent, surprisingly so. There's a little expected drop-off in sharpness around the edges, but it's well within expected parameters and is still well above the performance of most kit lenses. The LCD screen is the same as we saw on the D3300 to 921K dots and 3 inches. It was great on that camera and it's fine on this one, bright, clear and with a pleasing level of contrast. The viewfinder for the D3300 has been spruced up a little, with an improved 0.85x magnification image. It's bright, punchy and clear and did help me compensate for the aforementioned difficulty with manual focusing. Having the focus indicator lighting up in the viewfinder to judge when my manual focusing was correct was a nice touch, and it will certainly help beginners looking to get to grips with manual focus. Videographers will get a surprisingly good deal out of the D3300, especially given its status as an entry-level DSLR. It's capable of capturing 1920 by 1080 progressive footage at up to 60 fps, and Nikon have thoughtfully included an HDMI output for quick playback. While the D3300 has a built-in mic, the inclusion of a 3.5mm microphone input will be welcome for those who want to record audio in stereo rather than mono. Nikon D3300, image quality. The D3300 produces great images, and this is thanks in no small part to its excellent metering system. Wherever we went with the camera we found the evaluative metering system making sensible judgments. We only really felt the need to correct it to preserve detail in highlights or shadow in high contrast situations. It does tend to favor the highlights a little, sometimes leading to shadow areas looking a little dark, but this is easy to rescue in editing due to the camera's impressive dynamic range, 12.98 EV at ISO 100, great for a camera at this level. Color-wise, the camera performs as well as we've come to expect from Nikon. The auto-white balance is a good all-rounder, safe and reliable. We would recommend taking control when shooting in woodland to avoid it over-neutralizing the colors. In terms of image noise, the D3300 is a little disappointing. The color noise and shadow areas at ISO 400 surprised us. You really shouldn't expect such noise to be creeping in until ISO 800. Once you do get to ISO 800, color noise is visible in the midtones as well as more deeply in shadows. The D3300 does have an inbuilt noise reduction system to combat this, but this comes at the cost of sharpness if you do choose to turn it on. At the maximum native ISO of 12,800, luminance noise runs rampant and you really start to lose a lot of detail. At extended ISO 25,600 it's worse and very hard to control. Shooting in RAW format can help, but it's still prudent to be cautious. It's worth remembering that the high resolution of the D3300 can allow you to reduce noise